Hey, happy Monday. This is another try. It's hard sometimes to ask for help while, and get your tone right and the tempo right when somebody's busy torturing you. So, to the relatively new chief of police in the city of Akron, welcome. I used to own a home in the city of Akron with no mortgage until Summit County illegally took it from me. I used to own property in that home until Summit County's sheriff illegally took it from me, my personal property. And while it was a horrible experience, I didn't find it particularly surprising because Summit County illegally took my kids. Not sworn in, no evidence, so you're bypassing the entire legislative body because a lack of accountability. Like there's no malpractice attorneys for domestic court. Police don't enforce federal and state laws. So I've been homeless, living off a bicycle now for years. And I've been talking to people at Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions, Masonic meetings. And when you, as the police chief, said that the problem with the violence, the problem with the lack of governance to the city of Akron is going to require time, that really upset me and stood out because it bespeaks of your lack of understanding of what the problem is in the city of Akron. And it's not alone. Many other cities. Now, I had interactions with the city of Akron police, like thanking me for spending years aerating out the fields the kids played on around me where I lived, trying to get back. I wanted to break the Pavlovian cycle that if every time the radio goes off it's somebody's worst day, then that individual is going to expect it being the worst day. And so I did a 911 call into the police after listening to Joey Coco Diaz being interviewed by Joe Rogan on how to do it. And a bunch of cops rolled in on the house at 491 Sunset View in Akron. And I had tons of drinks and great food. And I just wanted to tell them thank you. So that you could break up that pattern. So I don't have a prejudice against public service. I got my Eagle Scout pin and my God and Country awards, and John Glenn put them on me, which is an incredible benefit, right? Because I got to meet my hero as a kid, and he was awesome. And what Sean got me to is understand and appreciate, sir, when he gave me a pocket copy of the United States Constitution. Anytime a government agency was making me wait, I would read that thing. And then we went to lunch, and I wanted to show off to him how well I had worn the edge of that book. And it broke his heart. Because if the Constitution doesn't live in the hearts and the minds of American people, then it's dead. It's just dead. And so what I would like is I would like your help as the police chief in understanding how to continue to argue for your neighbors and my neighbors in Akron and Greater Summit County to hold fast rather than pick up arms and start killing people. I'd like you to coach me up on that, sir. See, I've had dozens of grandmas that have been weaponized because they have watched these criminal abuses, these state and federal criminal actions, but treasonous actions. And I don't mean hyperbole there. I mean treasonous. Debtor's court. I mean, the King of England wasn't dumb enough to take away an American's kids, hold them hostage for money, knowingly allowed them to be criminally abused, and then take away their ability to vote, travel, seek employment. Now, the list of things that I've said attack the very definition of freedom: to own land, to own personal property. And the whole goal of governance in these United States is to protect the liberties and the properties of the citizens. You can't make a law. You can't pass some local bullshit that puts you above the United States Constitution. It's not a choice. Yet you, sir, your position has played pretend for decades, that there can be people who are immune and have immunity to the United States Constitution. They have immunity to being held legally responsible for their actions, even though their actions are so important to get right, you have to record everything in it. You gotta walk past a blindfolded statue with balanced scales. Now, you know who the largest criminal child abuser in the city of Akron is? Summit County Domestic Court. And that's by their own numbers. They place criminally abused kids with their abuser more than 90% of the time. Now, I'd like to point out, sir, that if you can only get 10% grade on a test, you're really not in a position to grade it. Now, I would be shocked if Summit County Domestic Court got anything right. Now, for more than 2,000 days, I have asked for help, and I have chatted personally and publicly throughout Summit County with all sorts of people and agencies about what's going on here. And grandmas volunteer to shoot Judge Cook, to shoot Sherry Bevan Walsh, to shoot them in the grocery store. Use their husband's .38 and just shoot them in the back of the head next time they see him after church. And I asked them not to do it. Because if my family tree has been damaged now since September 1st, 2016 in a way that can't be repaired. It was unnecessary, it is illegal, it is wrong, and it can't be repaired. So if my family tree went through all that just to face out and ferret out a corrupt judge, it's not worth it. That sacrifice, that pain, could never be worth it. But if it was to learn and to test our public servants so that we can understand the scope of the problem of what we face here in Ohio, you seem to perhaps think the argument is defunding the police. It's not that. If you don't enforce state and federal law, but you are willing to enforce the criminal actions of government, then your incompetence or corruption maintains the arguments to these grandmothers that you're a treasonous government. Now, the funny thing about freedom is the Constitution is right, sir. that these rights are God-given and inalienable. Obviously, I can't catch sunshine and make sugar. My existence is predicated on my willingness and ability to kill, as is all people. You take my kids and hold them hostage for money. I'll need to ask permission to come kill you and take them back. If you are criminally abusing my kids, I'll need to ask permission to come kill you and stop their abuse. I'm American. I'm free. As in a free American who knows that I wouldn't have bought the beautiful Hugo Boss uniform and gotten a good paying job and conformed, living next to Auschwitz, is I have not conformed nor bent to the corruption that's been occurring and the abuse that's been occurring to me and my family. Instead, I have repeatedly reached out to agencies from local to state, county, federal. And at this point, stunningly, at this point, it seems that the corruption of Summit County is commonplace throughout this greater state of Ohio. Because if it weren't, the state of Ohio would be doing something about this. But they don't. If you work in a neighboring county, then you know how horrific Summit County behaves in such blatant criminal ways. What are you doing to get them to be held accountable? So when you ask for more time, I ask you, can I take your kids and criminally abuse them for 2,200 days? And then would you be patient, sir, when I say to you, you need more time? Now, one of the reasons the French Revolution was so violent is because the abuses were allowed to occur for so long. If my tone, if my tempo is wrong, could you really blame me? How many days can you live outside, sir? How well could you speak into a camera when your kids are being abused yet another day? When your daughter went from being 3 grade levels ahead to not advancing at all for 3 years? When your home, your ability to travel, seek employment, vote, your personal properties were all stolen, and you know what your department did, sir? Fuck all. Now, where the grandma says, I would like my death to mean something and I'm dying of cancer, and this shit is never going to get fixed because she's watched this corruption occurring for decades and decades and decades. And I asked her to hold. I used myself as an example. If every day I can wake up and spend my day being devoid the opportunities to participate in society, the opportunities to vote, the opportunities to seek employment, the opportunities to travel to friends and loved ones that care for me, so that I'm isolated, kept from my basic needs, food, shelter, clothing, water, and I can hold, then please, let's give our system a chance and let's blatantly ask them for help, which is what I've been doing. So the question I have for you, sir, is do you value the Constitution as an American? Because the assumption would be that you do. That would be the fair assumption. But I've noticed incredible differences. Like how attorneys, those cowardly group, hold the Constitution is very different, sir, than how Marines hold the Constitution. Now, the American Revolution wasn't nearly as bloody as the French Revolution because people who knew better, people who could hold, just took action before they allowed their neighbors to just keep getting ground into oblivion. Do you want to know who the homeless are in your city? Go watch the males who are walking into Summit County Domestic Court. Now, I had my kids taken from me for a picture of a shotgun hanging on the wall. My Masonic brother had his kids taken from him because he took them to church on Sunday. Do you want to pretend that you don't know which federal laws these break? Because by doing that, you are adding to the mountain of evidence that this is a treasonous government, that you, sir, participate in a treasonous government. Now, just on the off chance that you're religious, Mother Teresa defined evil as the indifference of those that know better. There's another famous fella who described it: when good men don't take action. Why is it that you allow your department to do that? Now, your predecessor should have been put in jail because he knowingly, systemically wrote moving traffic violations, but only to the poor in the city, even though they were illegal. He's knowingly ignored the largest criminal child abuser, the largest state criminal, the largest federal criminal in your entire city is right in downtown in Summit County Domestic Court. Do we need Bastille Day, sir? Should I show up with tens of thousands of your neighbors right in the middle of your downtown and we just empty out anything that's county? If you work at the county, we put you down. If you are being held by the county, we set you free. Because by your inactions in enforcing state and federal law, that is what you're requiring of us. The United States Constitution requires that all of us as Americans, it obliges us to use the First Amendment in the hopes that it reduces the need for the Second, but to use the Second to kill all treasonous governments. Now, as far as the state of Ohio goes, or the city of Akron goes, the city of Akron, from your mayor to city council to you, to your prosecutors, what have you done? The answer is nothing. Not one fucking thing. So, sir, go on the camera. Let everybody know why it is that you're unwilling to enforce federal law. Why it is you're willing to play pretend to the bullshit that somebody is immune to the United States Constitution. And if you work for the state of Ohio, you should be doing something about Summit County, because the largest abuses to the citizenry of Ohio is the domestic court. They move illegally the most amount of money from Americans than any other court system in our land. Think of that. It'd be like if your house is on fire and the fire department showed up and said, well, we're going to keep half the shit we save. Well, it's still burning pretty good. We're going to keep 60% of what we saved. You want us to sit and watch it burn, or you want us to do something? These are families that are in need of counseling. These are families that are in trauma, that are on fire. And you allow them to be criminally abused by the very public servants that took an oath to help them. And then you want to ask for more time. 2,200 days. Since September 1st, 2016, Summit County has been criminally abusing me and my kids, Catherine, Ella, Leah, and Michael. I had a spouse abandon her marital home, knowingly file hundreds of pages of false documentation at the county, and none of it matters. You want to know why? Because the judge's top campaign donor can't give her money tax-free through campaign donations unless they legally extort it from a family in crisis. And as the unemployed primary caregiver of my kids, wash their clothes, cook them food, walk them to school, chaperone them, take them to their medical appointments, City of Akron was front and center to shut off my water in the winter, shut off my electricity and gas in the winter, have no food save Masonic charity. So teach me, sir, how should I make the arguments to these grandmas? And I mean, if you're a vet here in Summit County, my God, I'm shocked any vet gets home from Ohio and doesn't kill themselves. You put your life at risk for the United States Constitution, and then you come home, and the very fundamental building blocks of society, the family, the Constitution doesn't exist. State law doesn't exist. And I am failing, sir. I am failing in two things. Getting public servants to begin doing their fucking jobs. And I'm also beginning to fail in convincing my neighbors to hold and wait. And then I see you saying you want more time. Why? Do I need to become a police officer and then I can legally murder my neighbors who are unarmed when I wrongfully interact with them without fear of any prosecution, but more importantly, I'll get a paid vacation. But if I say speech like this, the cowards amongst you will want to pretend that I am inciting violence, which isn't at all what I'm doing. State criminals incite violence. Federal criminals incite violence. Taking away kids from Americans, holding them hostage for money, allowing them to be criminally abused, taking my personal property, taking my house with no mortgage, taking my ability to seek employment, my ability to travel, my ability to vote. That incites, that requires violence. I look forward to seeing and hearing your answers, sir, as I'm sure does so many other of the neighbors. More time is the one thing you don't have, sir. And the way that you ask your citizens who are being abused for more time is by holding and beginning to show that you're willing to hold these people accountable for their crimes. 2,200 days of not doing anything is not the evidence that you want to continue to make, sir. So while you begin to do your job, I hope, better than your predecessor, coach me up. Coach me up. How should I continue to talk my neighbors out of killing people?